Bayan waited at the school gate, her eyes fixed on the big blue door. She looked down at her watch and muttered softly, "Why are they not leaving the kids yet?" She looked up again just in time to see the door open. Little kids walk out in neat lines holding their bags tightly. One eyes searched and then they fell on her 3-year-old son, Jungshu. He stood there, his tiny fingers gripping his bag, his round eyes looking everywhere, clearly searching for his mama. The moment his eyes landed on Ryan, his face lighted up. A wide bunny smile spread across his cute little face. "Mama!" he called happily. Vance curved into a bright smile. She rushed forward and scooped him up in her arms. "Mama, I," Jangshu said, wrapping his tiny arms around her. Vine whispered softly. She his fluffy cheeks again and again. Jangshu giggled loudly, arms as she showered his face with her. They walked to the car together. One carefully placed Jangshu on the seat and tied his seat belt properly. She his forehead gently. "Good boy." She smiled before getting into the driver's seat. One paused. Her eyes slowly scanned the surroundings. Her heart felt heavy for no reason. For the past 4 years, she always felt the same thing, as if someone was watching her. But whenever she looked around, there was no one. She let out a small sigh and shook her head. "It's just my imagination," she whispered to herself. Van sat in the car and started the engine and drove away. Unseen by her, across the road a man stood beside a black car. His eyes never left them. Night had fallen quietly. Van sat on the sofa, carefully applying moisturizer on Jangshu's soft cheeks. Jangshu sat patiently, his little legs swinging, but his hands were busy. He was holding a photo of his father, Jungkook. Van tried not to look at it, but her eyes betrayed her for a second. "Mama," Jangshu asked softly, looking at the photo, "why does not Appa live with us?" One hand froze. For a moment her heart stopped. She took a gathering herself and smiled gently. "Appa has a lot of work," she said calmly. "That's why he cannot live here." Jungsu frowned. "But he never comes to meet me." Vine swallowed the lump in her throat. "He did come," she lied smoothly. "When you were a very smaller." Jungsu's eyes light up little. He pouted cutely. "Then tell Appa I want to meet him again," he said seriously. "I'm good boy now." One heart clenched. How could she tell him that his Appa left them years ago without a word and never came back again? She smiled through the "I'll tell him," she whispered. She Jangshu's forehead softly. Wan got up and took the skincare products and walked towards Jangshu's room to keep them back. The living room fell silent. Jangshu was alone now. He looked down at the photo of Jungkook again. Then he looked up, his eyes widened. "Appa!" Jangshu shouted happily. Wan rushed out immediately hearing his shouting. She, in front of him, panic in her eyes. "What happened?" Jangshu pointed toward the window excitedly. "Mama, I saw Appa. He was there, standing outside the window." Wan turned to look. There was no one, only darkness. She frowned in confusion. "There is no one." Jangshu shook his head stubbornly. "Enough now," she said gently. "Let's go. It's time to." She picked Jangshu up in her arms and started walking upstairs. Jangshu pouted, resting his head on her shoulder. "I really saw Appa." Wan held him tighter. "Appa is not here," she whispered. Outside the house, Jungkook stood frozen near the window. He slowly relaxed. For the first time in years, he did not feel the rage. Was calm. Jungkook's eyes trembled as he heard that small voice call him Appa. He stepped back. What is this? He muttered to himself. Every time I come near Van and Jiangsu, I feel angry, furious, out of control. He clenched his fist, confused. Then why today? Why did not I feel it? His gaze lifted toward the house one last time. I need to meet Taehyung, he said firmly. Something is changing. Jungkook reached the old pack house deep inside the forest. The place was hidden from the humans, protected by ancient magic. The moment he stepped inside, a familiar scent surrounded him. His sayings were already there. Namjoon stood near the window, arm crossed. Seokjin sat calmly, his expression serious. Yoongi leaned against the wall, eyes sharp. Hosuk, Jimin, and Taehyung stood nearby, all sensing a Jungkook's restlessness. Jungkook took a I went near one house today, he said quietly, and I saw Jungshu. Everyone froze. He called me Appa. Jungkook continued, his voice cracking slightly, and for the first time in 4 years, I did not feel. Namjoon turned around slowly, his eyes widening. You did not feel the. Namjoon asked. Jungkook shook his head. No anger, no. Silence filled the room. Then Namjoon spoke firmly. I think you finally found how you can come out of this. Jungkook looked at him sharply. Seokjin stepped forward and said softly, Yes, remember what that Alpha said while Jungkook closed his eyes. The memory in his mind. Seokjin continued, He said you will the one you the most, but Seokjin was looking straight at Jungkook. If the ones you accept you completely, then the will lose its power. Yoongi added in a low voice. The feeds on rejection, fear, and separation. Hoshok nodded. That's why you were always near them. They did not know the truth. Jimin spoke softly. Why never reject you knowingly, but she never accept your either. Taehyung looked at Jungkook, but your already accept you. Namjoon finished. Jungkook's his Seokjin said gentle. If Fan and Jungshu truly accept you as their, then you will not harm them. Seokjin said clearly. The will break. Jungkook nodded slowly. So the was never about them, Jungkook murmured. It was about testing if I was worthy of being even as a. Namjoon walked closer and placed a hand on Jungkook's shoulder. You are not a, he said firmly. You are an who sacrificed everything you give on. You must tell Wan the truth, Namjoon said, and let her choose. Jungkook clenched his fist. What if she what if she fears from me? He asked quietly. Seokjin answered softly. Then you will stay away, but if she accepts you, for 6 months slightly, you will get your. Jungkook closed his eyes. I will tell her. No more hiding. He sat outside. The moon shone brightly. The next morning, Wan stood in the kitchen preparing a Jungshu's breakfast. The house was so quiet, but her heart felt uneasy for no reason. She had a note. Jungshu's words from last night kept replaying in her mind. Wan shook her head slightly. Kids imagine things, she told herself. Just then, a sudden cold wind brushed past her. Wan froze. Her heart started beating fast. She slowly turned around and walked outside in the living room. He was standing there near the door, tall, broad, and familiar. Her cough in her throat. Jungkook, she whispered. Jungkook stood still, afraid that even one step forward might scare her away. His eyes were filled with her. I will not come closer. I just talk, he said softly. Once hand trembled. Her mind screamed to run, but her heart recognized him. You deceived it. You left without a word. Wan said, her voice shaking. I know, and I deserve your anger. Jungkook replied, clear in his eyes. Tear filled Wan's eyes. Why are you here now after all these years? She asked. Jungkook swallowed. Because I saw Jungshu yesterday. Wan stiffened. You were there, so he was not imagining. She asked sharply. Jungkook nodded slowly. I never left. I was always watching and protecting you, he said quietly. Van laughed bitterly through her tears. Protecting? You call leaving us protection? Jungkook clenched his fist. If I stay, you both will be, he said. Silence fell. What are you saying? Van whispered. Jungkook took a. There is something you don't know about me, and after today, you may, he said. Van Hart said, she whispered. Jungkook eyes slowly turned golden. Van gasped and stepped back. I'm not human, Van. I'm not, he said calmly. The air around him changed. His presence felt powerful and said, uh, he continued. Van shook her head in disbelief. This is not funny, she said, her voice breaking. I know, that's why I never told you, Jungkook said softly. He looked down. I was, he admitted, that makes me lose control if I stay near you while carrying a Jiangsu. I could have you. Wan felt weak, and Jiangsu, she whispered. Jungkook looked at her, tears shining in his eyes. He is my son. I never wanted to, he said. Wan covered her mouth, sobbing silently. So you choose to live? She asked brokenly. I choose your lives, Jungkook replied, and I watch my son grow up without touching him. Wan cried openly now. Now you don't get to come back and say this. You broke me, she said. I know, and I'm not asking you to forgive me. Jungkook whispered his step back. I just you to know the truth and to choose. He said, if you tell me to leave, I will, he said firmly, and I'll never come back. One look at him, at the man she, at the he fear becoming, has at the father of her child. Upstairs, Changshu stood quietly, his little hands holding the railing, his eyes glowed faintly. Appa, he whispered, and the bond stayed. One could not hold it anymore. She broke down completely. Tears streamed down her face as she ran forward and hugged Jungkook tightly. She cried against his. Jungkook froze for a second, then his arms wrapped around her like like he was holding his whole world. He cried silently, his face in her hair. I'm sorry, he whispered brokenly. I never stopped. At that moment, something inside Jungkook snapped, then healed. The it disappeared. His went calm, and she accepted him. Jungkook held Van tighter, her in like he was afraid she would vanish. Mama, Appa, a small voice interrupted them. Jungsu ran forward and hugged Jungkook tightly. Van and Jungkook slowly pulled apart. Jungsu looked up at his father with teary eyes. Appa, don't leave us now. Jungkook shook his head immediately and picked up in his arms. I'm not going anywhere. He said firmly. Jungsu hugged him tightly, resting his head on Jungkook's shoulder. One step closer and wrapped her arms around both of them. After a few quiet minutes, they slowly pulled back. Jungkook looked at Jungsu. His sun eyes were shining golden. One heart skipped. Jungkook, what is happening to him? She asked nervously. Jungkook smiled softly, brushing Jungsu's hair. It's just his power awakening, he said calmly. It's Van relaxed and smiled through her tears. For the first time in 4 years, they were finally a family.